Okay, so I was asked to discuss the Science Park as a platform for career development. So I'll tell you very briefly what we do, and then I'll give you some free advice, which of course you have a lot of free advice today, but some more will not work. So first, about the park. This is not our corporate message, so don't tell my boss that I told you this. But the park, you can look at it from three sides, okay? The park can be a place where we host companies, we host research institutes, we have over 2,000 people going to work there every day, right? The park is also a tool, so the people living there with us, they use the park as a tool, very similar to the THIC. So they access our research facilities, they access our research team. We have about 65 researchers, plus some occasional volunteer, and they do research for companies, they do research for institutes, they do their own research in collaboration with other universities or centers, whatever. About more or less 20 million euros worth of facilities, which after hearing about Germany this morning, it may be not a lot, but still we make a very good use of that. And we are also a channel, right? A channel through which international collaborations come and go, and we move information from one side to the other. And we are a very complicated park. I don't know if you're familiar with the Science Park, business, but we have 125 people on the payroll, which is a lot. I mean, the Science Parks have between 4 and 10 people on the payroll, normally. Okay, but well, half of them are scientists anyway, so it's complicated. This is a family picture. I don't know if there's a pointer here, but yeah, there's a pointer. It will explode. So this is, the logos of the companies based with us. All this information is available, and I think you will have access to the slides anyway. So just so you see that you will not recognize anybody there. Most likely, you may recognize Esteban, which is a mid-sized pharma company, but everybody else is completely unknown to you, which is good. Because many of these companies are startups, and many of these companies are selling to other companies. They're not selling to you. They're selling to companies that then sell the products to you. And we also have R&D centers, Institute for Research in Biomedicine, Bioengineering, Molecular Biology. It's very much a bio environment. And other institutions, entities. We have an ecosystem which includes from basic researchers all the way to patient associations and everything in between. So it's a very complete ecosystem. What do we do for career opportunities? Okay. In my environment, so Science Park, Barcelona, Catalonia if you like, research centers offer PhD grants, yes, but very few. Of course, you're all excellent students, you're top, but still, it's a very tough competition for PhD grants. Of course, there's other opportunities, not necessarily PhD grants. You can have internships. For instance, we have this program, which may be relevant for some of you if you are recent graduates or about to graduate. Spend the summer in the park. It's been running for a number of years, over 10 years now, and it opens in 2 or 3 weeks. So any of you wants to spend summer months in Barcelona, working hard, you can go on the website and apply. It's very tough competition again, because we offer very few grants and we get lots of applicants from all over the world. But then you have the opportunity to spend some weeks or months with some of these companies or some of these research centers. What else? The mid-sized and large companies are in bad shape. Of course, we have heard about AstraZeneca and other companies hiring people, and I'm glad to hear that. And I'm sure that Novartis Basel is hiring, but Novartis Barcelona is not hiring. And other pharma companies in our environment are okay, more or less okay, but it's not like the first choice. Startups are a very good option, and we also have an industrial doctorate, so you can have a little bit of both things. You can work for industry and at the same time get a PhD. So you postpone that bifurcation that Amadeo mentioned later, you move it a little bit further down. Okay? At the same time, it opens some other perspectives. And very important, there is science beyond the bench, there is life beyond the bench. Okay? science is a lot bigger than getting a PhD, becoming a university professor, and it's fun to do that, but there's more things. So for a few years now, we have organizing this event, the Career Development event, which is basically about talking with scientists. And what we do is we take people who are young enough so that they still have things to do, but old enough so that they have already done things. So people in their late 30s, early 40s, and so these people talk to us about different things that they did. They all started as scientists, and now they're all doing other things. Right? This is the homepage. These are some profiles of the people who have participated in this event in the past few years. I'm not going to go into detail, okay? But you get an idea that there's many things. Just for instance, let me highlight head of sector very good individual fellowships. So it's not that you never again apply for a fellowship. You're giving out fellowships, just completely the other way. You can be Science Careers Contributing Editor for a science magazine. So you are arranging, organizing, and moving job opportunities for other people. So your job is to give people other jobs, and you're still a scientist. And of course, there's anything else: science journalist, project manager, IP lawyer, entrepreneur, of course, whatever. There's, if you go on the website, actually I have these two websites there, you can click and you will see the profiles of the people who have participated. And we find that this is very, well, for the people attending these sessions, it's very eye-opening, because most of these things you didn't know that they existed until you hear somebody say, oh yeah, I just took a master's on something, whatever, and now I am doing this thing. And it can be very, very fulfilling. And actually, I mean, if you look at my LinkedIn profile, you will see that I took a very strange career and did many different things. And I don't know, if we meet again in 10 years, I don't know what I will tell you. But this is, it's normal for somebody starting in science and then ending up doing a lot of strange things within science. Of course, you can do strange things outside of science, but then that's just... So, you've seen this for sure. Okay, you're familiar with this graph. Okay, I just bring it up because you really want to be there. You want to be at the intersection of what you like, what you can do, what you know how to do, what you're good at, and then what pays money. That is like the sweet spot. Most of us are not there. Most of us are in a place that gives us money, and we more or less can do all right. I mean, if you ask around, not everybody is in a place that they love and that they are good at it, and besides they pay rent.
But we don't get paid.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with the other parts of that. I mean, all your hobbies and all, I mean, many things are there, and it's fine. But at some point, if you're looking for a job, you want a job that is, in that intersection of the three things, which is good to bear in mind. And let me finish with some thoughts that I don't know if they're useful or not, but they're free. So, one thing that worked for me is to focus on values. Okay? Focusing on values means that where you want to make an impact, and that is kind of a guiding principle. And values not necessarily means ethical values. It means something that's important for you. And you may be doing a job that pays very well, but it's not important for you. And saying, what am I doing here? Right? So values is always a good guideline. Okay? And also, and again, this has to do with the perspective and all these undifferentiated cells. Saying, identify general goals. If you identify something that is very specific and very narrow, of course you will be focused. And you will be like, okay, I want to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30. And you work on that. But if you fail, then there's nothing else. You're 31, you're not a millionaire, then what? Right? So you want to have, at least for me, work to have like, fuzzy goals. And something, again, that one of my supervisors told me, make noise. Make lots of noise. Of course, if you make noise and you say nonsense, you will be very famous very quick, but then people will avoid you. Okay? So you want to make good noise. So don't... Sorry? Music, yeah, make music. No, if you are in a meeting, try to introduce yourself to, to the key people in the meeting. Say, oh, hello, I'm a student. You don't know me, but someday you will. So it worked for me. I mean, I have no problem going to anybody and introducing myself and say, hey, I want to talk to you about this or that. So this is something that is, of course, if you start to say silly things, it works against you. But if you have more or less, a balance between silly things and interesting things, then it helps you progress. Very important, and especially very important now that you have the tools, build a network. Okay? A network, we have been talking about LinkedIn, professional network, personal network. It's important to have a network. Do things for others. Okay? The best, we were talking about over lunch, the best time to make friends is when you don't need them. Don't wait until you meet friends to start making some, because then it's too late. Okay? Then people see you coming and say, oh, this guy she's looking for, for something. So don't wait until you meet people to actually go out and meet people. Do things for others. I'm working in a service company, the Science Park. We provide service. So my job is to do things for others. But I use some of my time, not a lot, but again, I hope not many people see this. But I use some of my time to, have coffee with the students. Send me CVs. I don't receive 700 CVs, but I receive CVs quite often from students, from people who are more senior and they lost their jobs, from postdocs who don't want to do another postdoc, and they say, oh, I see that you are a PhD, and then now you're doing very interesting things. How do you do it, right? So, okay, I can buy you coffee, sit down half an hour and discuss things. I mean, I cannot give you a job, but I can buy you coffee at least. And this thing eventually pays off. At least, I mean, you have a network of people who know you and who sometimes they value your advice. So it's something that it's never too early to start doing things for others, even if it's for your colleagues or for other people. I think it's very, very rewarding. And, well, read a lot. Read a lot. You never know where the next opportunity is going to come from. It may come from your particular field of expertise, and then you're all right because you are the boss and you know everything about it. But it may come from something that's, a bit to the side, and it's good to have, of course, some core specialty. I'm not good particularly at anything. I mean, I'm not an expert at anything, but I know a little bit about many things. So if I don't talk too much, I can more or less get by. So if you listen more than you talk, you can identify good opportunities. And one of that is that I'm involved in a number of projects, in a number of areas that I know nothing about, or next to nothing about. But because you know enough so that you can make a small contribution, then you can be part of that. So being more or less prepared is good. And that is, oh, there's one more, yes. Well, you heard that before, okay? Be flexible. Prepare to learn and to change. And say, no, well, I'm 40, I cannot change. Yes, you're 40, of course you're going to change. No, it's never consider yourself like finished because you haven't finished. No, my former boss, he's 60 and he's starting now a new job, and he's very, very eager about that. So you're never finished with your job. And that's what I wanted to say. I think I'm
yes. Especially for these very interesting thoughts and also for being so humble, because actually you are very successful. You are the director of such an important institution, so you know a lot. You know
mid manager. There's a director.
Yeah, you know a lot, and so you made an excellent career. Any questions for him? I think it's an opportunity to have him here on stage, because you can tell us more about other opportunities for young scientists, which is called sometimes commercialization of science. So patenting, and then of course licensing of patents, which is something very difficult, especially for traditional universities, where trying, for instance, in Sapienza to improve, but there is a lot of room for improvement. This is one question. Second one is also related to the same topic, which is how to start a company. Because maybe a young, very smart PhD student, instead of looking for a job, maybe he or she can create her own company. And then sometimes this can be very successful, because I know the big pharmas, so sometimes you can correct me if I'm wrong, now sometimes they do shopping around. So instead of maybe developing everything themselves, sometimes they buy a small biotech and they pay maybe sometimes even 10 or 50 or 100 million dollars or euros, which is a lot for maybe a young guy who started with just with a PhD fellowship, but is not very much for a company. If the idea is successful, if the drug is already maybe in phase 1 or phase 2, then you can really bring it to the market and make a lot of money. You can tell us a little bit more about these aspects.
Okay, so there's two things. One is about the patenting, and this has to do with the impact. Okay? I attended a lecture by Matteo Valero recently, well, 3 or 4 months ago. And I don't know if you know him, he's the director of the Barcelona Supercomputing Center. So he's an expert in computer engineering and all that. And he was giving a lecture, and at one point he said, okay, we are, he was referring of course to Barcelona, we are producing excellent science, a lot of it. And we published, Catalonia produces 1,000th of the world's scientific output, 100 with 1,000 of the population, like 7 million to 7,000 million, and so a factor of 10. So we say, okay, we produce science like crazy and very good science. So we produce lots of excellent science, but we don't produce a lot of relevant science. Nothing against excellent science, and there's a place for everything, right? But some countries or some places have managed to close the circle. So you get people doing great cancer research, but then some people moving that research forward and making companies out of it and making drugs out of it. And somehow we are, in the middle. We are not particularly successful at that, and we are not creating all these companies, at least to the size that they have a real impact. So this is something that we are doing, but not too well. And then there was this question about how you start a company. Okay, you start a company, at least in my field of knowledge, which is health science, pharma, biotech. If you don't close your options, so if your goal is to publish and get the next grant, and then start another project and build an academic career, you will never get past that. And it's fine with you. You will have a very successful career in research, and it's good. There's a need for these hybrid profile people who identify the opportunities and then move these opportunities forward. And if you allow me, I'll give you my own experience, right? So we had a visitor in the Science Park in 2010, a professor from Tel Aviv, and he had this patent on a molecule that was a modified citalopram. So citalopram is an antidepressant drug, widely known. Everybody, probably 10% of people in the room have taken citalopram at one point. Well, no, 10% of the people in any room.
Not
This would be them too. But okay, so they thought that citalopram, because it affects the serotonin receptor, it has other effects besides the antidepressant effect. So they said, well, we modify citalopram a little bit so that it doesn't get into the brain, but still it affects the serotonin receptor, and now it's an anti-aggregating molecule with a cardiovascular indication. And so he got to that point, but he was not prepared to go beyond that point, because it's not his job. So I saw that and said, oh wow, this looks very interesting. So I called somebody I know who is an entrepreneur and who was looking for projects, and said, would you be interested in this? So we sat down, we discussed this, and it took 2 years to find the money to get started. So a year ago, in October, November 2012, we started NMC Pharma, which is a virtual pharma company. And this company, what we do is we take this molecule, we do some final proof of concept, some preclinical studies to take it to phase 1, phase 2, and eventually in phase 2 hope that big pharma will buy it. Okay? So that's how you start a company. You identify an opportunity. You are located in with one foot on every side of the whole field. So one foot in the science, so you can identify the opportunity, and one foot in the business, so that either you know somebody who can raise money, or you can raise money, or you have rich friends, or you have some way to get access to 100,000 euros, and then get it started. Right? So this is a matter of taking some risks, and then not being afraid to lose it. Okay. So if I have some money put in there, and if I lose it, it's going to give me a bit of a stomachache for a couple of days. But then, well, you start the next thing. I've started 2 more companies since. So it's
a good idea. Thank you very much. Any other questions on this? Because he has experience on also this part, which was not covered before. So if you have any other questions on that.
I'm happy to continue the conversation anytime. If you want to, I sent some more LinkedIn invitations during the conference, and if you send me a LinkedIn invitation, please let me know who you are, okay? Because I've received invitations from people who are looking for jobs and people who I don't know who they are, and it's just, okay? But I'm happy to connect with any of you.
Thank you very much. Now, Melissa maybe is not online yet, I think, because it's at 4, so we can do another.
Facciamo l'analisi o chiamiamo...
Is she online already? Or